Okay, so let's continue on Beis Amid Beis in Masechta Beitzah, and the Gemara explained that with regards to Shabbos, the way Rebbe used to rule, if he wanted a certain rule to be the halacha, so what he would do when Rebbe wanted to decide a ruling, what the halacha should be. So what did he do? Instead of bringing down that there are several opinions, and then you have to decide who you have to rule like, because there are different opinions. So Rebbe decided to bring down just one opinion, or not even to bring down an opinion. He just stated like a fact without saying any opinion, just says a halacha. That was the way that Rabbi Yehuda Nossi, that was the way he expressed his ruling, who the halacha is like, because he brought it in such a way. And the Gemara says, and the Gemara said before, we learned that with regards to Yom Tov, Rebbe ruled uh, with regards to Yom Tov, like Rabbi Yehuda, which goes by Muktzah. And the Gemara brings different Mishnahs. He said in Mishnah, without any names, without any qualifications, that Muktzah applies by Yom Tov. That means that Rebbe rules like Rabbi Yehuda, just by the fact that he doesn't bring down any differing opinions. He just says, with regards to Yom Tov, he says, there is Muktzah over there. On the other hand, with regards to Shabbos, he ruled in a Stam Mishnah, like Rabbi Shimon, that it doesn't have a Muktzah. So basically it means that with regards to Shabbos, Rabbi Yehuda Hanossi, Rebbe, he learned that there is no Muktzah. And with regards to Yom Tov, he learned, like Rabbi Yehuda, there is Muktzah. With regards to Shabbos, he goes like Rabbi Shimon that there is no Muktzah. And with regards to Yom Tov, he learns like Rabbi Yehuda, there is Muktzah. That is the reason why he wants to make sure that Beis Hillel will be interpreted according to the halacha. That's what the Gemara said before. But the bottom line is, it seems like Rabbi Yehuda Hanossi, arbitrarily, he decided that with regards to Shabbos, he's going to rule that there is no muktzah like Rabbi Shimon, and with regards to Yom Tov, he's going to learn like Rabbi Yehuda that there is muktzah. So the Gemara says, but why? Why? If there is muktzah, it should be in both cases. If there is no muktzah, there should be in no case. That's what we're going to start today. Frag the Gemara, Mirdi. Let's just examine. Let's examine this. Man sotmei lemasnisi. Who is the one that closed the Mishnah? Closed the Mishnah means put opinions. He just gave a statement, a matter of fact, versus saying this is an opinion. Who is the one basically that wrote the Mishnah, and who's the one that suggested that Stam, is a plain Mishnah without any names? Who did that? Rebbe. Rebbe, that's Rabbi Yehuda Nossi. He's the one that wrote the Mishnah, and he made that decision. So what does it mean? That he made a decision. With regard to Yom Tov, he made a decision that he wants to rule like Rabbi Yehuda, that there is Muktzah. And with regards to Shabbos, he made a decision that he wants to learn like Rabbi Shimon, that there is no Muktzah. Let's do the Rashi. Man Sos lemasnisin Rebbe. Sagt Rashi. Who Sider HaMishnah? He is the one that organized the Mishnah. Who's he? That's Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda Nossi. He organized the Mishnah. Ukishara divrei chacham. When he saw the words of a sage, the Yoshru Be'enov, and they found favor in his eyes, he liked that opinion. So then, Shonom Stam, then he learned it nameless. V'lo hiskir shem imrei aleihem. He did not mention the name who said it on this statement. He just gives a plain statement, a nameless statement. Why? Kidei shelo yu shnuya mipi yochid. So that it should not be taught that one individual, if you would say, Rabbi Yehuda said so, Rabbi Shimon said so, that would be one individual. So he didn't want it to look like an individual. When he says it in a nameless way, is v'nidim ki ilu nishnu mipi hamerubim. It appears as if it was learned by the many, by the chachamim, and therefore v'yasukim oisum, they'll do like them. So Rebbe had a trick. When he wanted to rule the halacha like a certain individual, what he did was he made it nameless. So it doesn't look anymore like it's an individual who says that. It looks like that's the many. That's his way of saying that that is the halacha.
Don't we have something that says Stam Mishnah Karabi Meir? If there's an unnamed
Stam Mishnah
Mishnah.
Rabbi Yehuda, Stam Mishnah
That-
different, yeah, Stam Rabbi Meir, yeah, Stam
So,
Raisa, the different, yeah.
so
But,
it seems like two different things. One is he's saying that this is his decision. The other is we have a concept that if it doesn't say who it is, then it belongs to Rabbi Meir.
yeah. So while that is true, but the fact that it doesn't even say, again, I'm not sure that ruling is mamish all across the board. I mean, there is differences, there's exceptions, but even in those cases, the reason why he doesn't even want to say Rab Meir or the name of the Tana is because he wants that to be the halacha, right? Because if he did say it was the name, then you might say, okay, who says that we should go by it? It does not contradict that it's whoever the nameless Tana is, but the fact that he leaves him nameless. So if, let's say, a Mishnah does say Divrei Rebbe Meir, so then that is not been decided by Rabbi Yehuda Nossi, the halacha should be like that, because he put in the name. But when he omitted the name, you might know who that person is because Tam Mishnah is a certain person, but yet he left it nameless for the purpose that we should rule the halacha like that person. That's why he left it nameless. That's why he wrote it as Tam. But the real question we have, who was the decision maker over here? Rabbi Yehuda Nossi, Rebbe, he's the one that made the decisions. So we want to know, how come by Shabbos he decided to go along with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon that there is no muktzah? And on Yom Tov, he goes along with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda that there is muktzah. Why is that? So that's the Gemara's question. Again, Mirdi, let us see. Man sotme lemasnisin, who made the Mishnah nameless? Who? Rebbe. That was Rebbe. Rabbi Yehuda Nossi. He made it nameless. Mai shno b'Shabbos, the sosem lon ki Rabbi Shimon. So what's the difference? How come by Shabbos he made nameless like Rabbi Shimon? Umay shno b'Yom Tov, the sosem lon ki Rabbi Yehuda. And why is Yom Tov different that over there he made it nameless and he ruled like Rabbi Yehuda that we do hold muktzah? So why did he choose to switch the halacha between Shabbos and Yom Tov? On Shabbos he learns like Shimon, and on Yom Tov he learns like Rabbi Yehuda. And the Gemara says, Amri, I will say, I will tell you. People inherently have more respect for Shabbos than they do for Yom Tov. Why? Because Shabbos, you can't do any work. People take Shabbos more seriously, and therefore the Rabbanon didn't feel that they have to make extra muktzah. It was okay with the laws we already have because nobody is going to come to make Shabbos cheap. And there was no need for them to aser muktzah on Shabbos. On the other hand, on Yom Tov you're allowed to do. You're allowed to do meleches oichel nefesh. So people are not going to take the Yom Tov as serious. And the Chachamim felt they wanted to make it stringent by the rules of the rabbi. Let's look inside. Amri. So I will tell you. Shabbos the Chamiri, Shabbos which is stringent. V'lo osi zili zal zulibo. People will not come to make it cheap. People are not going to make it cheap. It's serious. Rashi says, le'osel zazulibo. Imakilim bo hodokulo. If you will be lenient with one leniency, you're going to allow muktzah. Like Rabbi Shimon, people are not going to come to be more lenient. So it's okay to rule like Rabbi Shimon when it comes to Shabbos. Because Shabbos people take seriously, and the fact that you will allow one to be a leniency and you're not going to do muktzah, that will not lead to more leniencies on Shabbos. And that's why Sosem Lon Ki Rabbi Shimon de Mekel. That's why you put the nameless Mishnah like Rabbi Shimon who is lenient. He says, okay, we could be lenient. But Yom Tov, the Keel, but Yom Tov on the other hand, which is not as serious because you can do other work, and people will come to cheapen. If you're going to say you can do muktzah on Yom Tov, they'll be lenient in other things. So therefore, Sosem Lon Ki Rabbi Yehuda de Machmir. That's why he made a nameless Mishnah like Rabbi Yehuda, who is strict, and that's why that explains the thinking of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, of Rabbi, that by Shabbos he rules like Reb Shimon that it's okay, muktzah, because it won't come to further cheapening the Shabbos. But by Yom Tov he was worried. He rules like Rabbi Yehuda, therefore, that the rule goes by muktzah because he wanted to make sure to keep it stringent so people should not come to make more leniency. Okay. What is the whole issue over here? The Gemara asks now, okay, that what is the egg? The person did not have in mind to eat the egg on Shabbos, on Yom Tov. Why? Because he didn't know there was an egg over there. The egg was laid on Yom Tov, right? He didn't know there's an egg over there. So therefore, it's muktzah. The egg on Yom Tov, the chicken lays an egg on Yom Tov. We're saying to you, the Mishnah says that you can't eat it. Now, if it's a chicken that if it's a chicken that you're not going to use so I'm just trying to remember what the Gemara said. What did the Gemara say before? by um, uh,
That there were some chickens that were used for
uh,
eggs and other chickens that were used for dinner.
uh,
Or maybe
the Gemara thinks that if it was not, then it would be us. If it was not by a Tarnagoylis, Haimedes Legadol Beitzim, let's say it wasn't there to lay eggs, uh, then it would be uh, Asur. Um, okay, then for sure, fakert. If it's a chicken that is meant to be eaten, that you're eating it, that means so then it's considered prepared. Then it would be no problem according to everybody. There would be no disagreement. In other words, the Gemara says a chicken that lays eggs, just like you're allowed to eat the chicken, because it's standing there to be eaten. So you can eat the eggs also. That wouldn't be a problem then. The problem is that it's muktzah because it's not there to be eaten. It's just there to uh, to lay eggs. So you did not have in mind to eat the. You did not have in mind to eat the eggs because that is the eggs. The chicken will sit on the eggs, and then there'll be more chickens. That's the purpose. It's not meant for the eggs to be eaten, right? So, so the Gemara asks, so what's the issue over there? The issue is, can you use something which you did not have in mind to eat on Shabbos? If it was standing there to be eaten, the eggs, the chicken to be eaten, then there wouldn't be a question. Then it would be okay to eat it, according to everybody. There would be no machlokes. But since it's not meant to be eaten, it's there to raise eggs. Raise eggs meaning to make other chickens. So now the question is, it's muktzah on Yom Tov. Are you allowed to use it in Yom Tov? So the Gemara says like this. The Gemara asks, so why are we arguing about the egg? What about the chicken itself? Should be the same question. Are you allowed to use the chicken on Yom Tov? You decided on Yom Tov that you want to have a nice piece of chicken and you want to shecht it, a fresh piece of chicken. You want to shecht it on Yom Tov. So there should be a machlokes, would seem between Besham and Besilil, whether we go by muktzah or not. Since you did not have in mind to eat chicken on Yom Tov because it was there to raise eggs, that's what it was there, to have other chicks. So you shouldn't be, are you allowed to or not? How did you interpret the Mishnah? We're talking about a chicken which is there standing to raise eggs, and therefore you did not have in mind to eat those eggs. And what's the issue? Why Beishamai and Beis Hillel are arguing whether you're allowed to or not? Is Bishum Muktzah? Question: is it Muktzah? Can you use it on Yom Tov? In that case, adimafligi bebeitzah lefalgu betarnegoilis. Why are they arguing whether we? If this is really what the argument is, why are they arguing about the egg? Why are they not arguing about the chicken? Can we use a chicken that is not meant to be eaten? It's meant to lay eggs, to sit for the eggs. Can we eat that chicken? Why are we talking about the eggs? Same issue. Is it muktzah or not? Uh, Now, which one is more muktzah, as we said before? The chicken or the egg? Which one did the person have less? Muktzah means he did not have in mind. It was out of his mind to use it. Which is more out of the person's mind to use? The
The
chicken
egg.
or the egg?
The egg.
How come?
Oh, well, he didn't know the egg was there till it showed
Not
up.
even an egg there. He didn't know that it's there.
The
How
chicken,
do
he
we
always
call
knows the
that? The
chicken.
Gemara had before. What is that called? Noilad. Noilad means it wasn't around. It was just born. It was just created. The egg was just laid now. It wasn't even there. So, what is a bigger chiddush? That not only does Beis Shammai allow to eat the chicken, which was around. Okay, you didn't have in mind to eat it. You wanted to raise the egg. It was there to raise the egg, but it was around. Does he allow to eat it? Beis Shammai goes as far that even Noilad is also. So the Gemara explains. So if you're asking me that the same argument could be with regard to the chicken itself, forget about the egg. True, Beis Shammai will say you can eat the chicken. Beis Hillel will say no. But Beis Shammai wants to tell us not only are you allowed to eat the chicken, but you're also allowed to eat the egg. That's why he gives the case of the egg. Lehoidiacha koichon de Beis Shammai. To tell you the strength or the argument of Beis Shammai, the Bnei Shari. Even in the case where the egg wasn't around, you're still going to be allowed to. That's why he's telling you the case where the egg was laid, that it wasn't even around, and still you're allowed to eat it. We're not going to say muktzah. That's a big chiddush. Okay? So you're telling us a chiddush that it's mutter, even that Beis Shammai says it's mutter. Not only is the chicken mutter, but also the egg is mutter. The egg wasn't even around. That is also mutter. That's why you're giving me the case of the egg. Correct? Frag the Gemara, but v'liflugi b'tarnegoyles. Why don't they have the machloki with tarnegoyles? And then loidir hakoichen the Beis Hillel the b'muktzah aser. They should have told you the power of Beis Hillel. Not only does Beis Hillel say that the egg is not permitted, that wasn't around at all. He should tell us that even the chicken that is around you can't use. So we have a benefit of talking about the chicken. You're telling me the benefit of talking about the egg because that way you can see that Beis Shammai permits even noilad. But I will tell you there's a benefit in talking about the chicken because the benefit will be with the opinion of Beis Hillel that not only does Beis Hillel not allow an egg, which wasn't there at all, he doesn't even allow the chicken, even though the chicken was there. So why don't we argue about the chicken to tell us how strong Beis Hillel is that they permit it, even though, that they prohibit it. That even though the chicken was there, it's still awesome. Following with the Gemara's question? So there's a benefit, according to Beis Shammai, to speak about the egg, to tell us you're even allowed to use the egg. But there's also a benefit about the chicken to tell us that Beis Hillel answers even the chicken. So why talk about the egg and not about the chicken? So, which one of the two is better? To tell us that it's Beis Shammai's chiddush, that it's permissible, even the egg is permissible, or to tell us the chiddush of Beis Hillel that even the chicken is also. Which of the two is more important to teach us? So the Gemara says, well, the chitema koicha de hetera odif. If you'll say the power of allowing is greater, you come to a rabbi and you ask him a shaila, am I allowed to use this or not? And the rabbi will answer you and he'll say, better not. That means the rabbi doesn't even know exactly if it's bad or not. He just tells you better not. In other words, don't do it. Saying don't do it doesn't mean that you have exhausted all the reasonings and that you really know that you shouldn't do it. Maybe you don't want to take any chances. You don't want to get involved. You say don't do it, and that's it. Stay safe, basically. But when the other rabbi says, no, you can go ahead and eat it, he is basically telling you, nah, you can do it. I know. You could trust me. It's on my shoulders. I take responsibility. This is permissible. Saying something is permitted takes more strength, takes more conviction than saying something is prohibited. I can say something is prohibited because I don't want to take a chance. That doesn't really mean that it's prohibited. I'm just saying don't do it. Don't take any chances. So we would rather teach you that Beis Shammai says it's permitted even if it's noilat, because this tells us a lot. Here he knows for sure that's bigger than saying that Beis Hillel asers even muktzah, even the Tarnagelis itself, because that doesn't take that much. So we know the power to permit it is stronger, so we should choose that. And that's why your question, and that's why I'm going to answer you. That's why the Mishnah chooses to talk about the egg, because that way we have the fullest extent of the opinion of Beis Shammai that he permits even the egg, which was noilad, which wasn't around. And that's a more powerful thing. Let's do the Rashi. Which means toiv loy lahashmi'enu. It is good to the rabbi to teach us koyach divrei hamatir. He wants to tell you the power, the force of the words of the one who says it's permitted. Because the one who says that it's permitted, shehu soymech al shmosei, he relies on his understanding. He's not afraid to permit it. He says, yes, it's permitted. That means when you say that it's permitted, there's a conviction over there. You're not worried to say, I know that it is permitted. So that represents a more forceful way of telling the halacha. Avol koyach ha'isrim, but the force of those who prohibit, ain't raya. That's not evidence. Anybody could be machmir. Anybody can say, oh, it's stringent. Even let's say it's permissible. I'm saying, no, it's awesome. So what's going to happen? Nothing. So I said awesome. So you're not going to use it. So therefore, this answers the question, it would seem. The reason why he says the case of the egg to teach us the greater chiddush of Beis Shammai, that not only do Beis Shammai permit the chicken, but they also permit the egg, which was noiled. And still Beis Shammai said that it's okay. And that's the better one of the two to teach us about the egg, the chiddush of Beis Shammai, because the power of permitting is greater. But in our case, the Gemara says it is so easy to include both of them. You could have just said the chicken and the egg. Beis Shammai say that you can use it, and Beis Hillel say you can't use it. So you'd have, why just one word? Talk about the chicken too. Frag the Gemara, v'niflag b'tarvayu. Why don't we argue by both of them? And it says this is the way you should say. Tarnegoiles omedes legadol beitzim. You have a chicken who is not meant to be eaten, but is there destined to raise the eggs to make other chickens. So he ubeitzosa. So what's the status on Yom Tov of the chicken itself and its egg that is laid on Yom Tov? Beis Shammai says she can be eaten, so we're including everything, even the egg. You can't eat anything, not the chicken either. So you have both of them. You have both chidushim. Why not write it in such a way that you include everything? So the Gemara says, Elo Omar Rabba. But rather, the Rabbi says, he gives a whole nother reason. This is not about muktzah. This is not about the issue of muktzah. But this is about a chicken that is there to be eaten. There's not a problem. According to, technically, as far as the laws of muktzah, this is not muktzah. This is a expected, and the egg comes from the chicken. This is not muktzah. This is anticipation. We want to eat the chicken and we want to eat the eggs that it's going to lay. There's another issue. Tanagos lachila. But we're talking about ubiyom tov shechal liyos achar hashabes askinon. We're talking about a unique case of Yom Tov. This is not every Yom Tov. We're talking a Yom Tov that comes after Shabbos, which means Yom Tov is on Sunday. Sunday after Shabbos is Yom Tov. So you have Shabbos followed by Yom Tov. And that's the case. And what is the issue over here? Umeshum hachona. And the problem is of preparation. According to Beis Hillel, an egg that is laid on Shabbos was prepared, was laid on Yom Tov that followed Shabbos, was prepared on Shabbos. Shabbos is not allowed to prepare for Yom Tov. The problem with this egg is not muktzah. The problem with this egg is that this egg was prepared on Shabbos, so for Yom Tov, you can't eat on Yom Tov something that was prepared on Shabbos. Now, according to Beis Hillel, the fact that the Eibishter prepared it on Shabbos, you still can't use it on Yom Tov. And Beis Shammai differs. Beis Shammai says you didn't prepare anything. If you prepare something on Shabbos, you can't eat it on Yom Tov. But the Eibishter prepares, that's his business. You can eat it on Yom Tov. But the difference over here is this we call, according to Beis Hillel, Rabbi says you can't eat the egg on Yom Tov because the egg was prepared on Shabbos. So the Gemara, Elo again, Elo Amar Rabbi, Rabbi says, the chicken is there to be eaten, so there's no muktzah problem here. We're talking about a special Yom Tov that comes out after Shabbos. It's a Sunday. And because of preparation. The Asri lo Beis Hillel kedemefarish ba'ozel. This kind of preparation Beis Hillel prohibits on Yom Tov, the preparation that is done min hashamayim on Shabbos for Yom Tov, Beis Hillel prohibits it. As the Gemara explains. The Kosova Rabba, so Rabba holds, this is Rabba's view, that kol Beitzah the misyalda ha'idno. Any egg that is born today, it was late today. If it was late today, it was done yesterday. Me'etmal gomrolo. That has been completed from the day before. As Rashi says, the chol Beitzah, the misyaldo idna me'etmal gomrolo, that any egg that is laid today has been completed yesterday. It was done on Shabbos because Yom Tov comes after Shabbos. The afal gav di b'dei shamayim, even though this is the Eibishter made it. Who made the egg over there? You didn't do anything. Osur. That is prohibited. Doesn't matter. Why? Can't have somebody. The be'inon kol sudes Shabbos v'sudes Yom Tov. We need that all the meals of Shabbos and all the meals of Yom Tov sheyiyu mezumonis u'mechonis. They should be prepared and ready. They need to be ready from a weekday. You can't have, even if it's dam in Hashemayim, we need everything that we're going to eat on Yom Tov to be ready from a weekday, not from a Shabbos day. Even though this is by day Shemayim, it doesn't matter. But we need it to be prepared for Yom Tov from a weekday, as we learn from the Pasuk. And therefore, this egg, according to Beis Hillel, is Asur on Yom Tov. It's only the egg, because the egg was prepared on a Shabbos for Yom Tov from Hashem, but it was prepared on Shabbos for Yom Tov. We need a weekday to prepare for Yom Tov. Can't use that egg in Yom Tov. And Rabbi L'Tamei, and this reasoning, Rabbi follows his reasoning that he says that even if you don't prepare it with your hands, it's prepared from Shamayim, it's still going to be considered prepared, and you can't use it on Shabbos. V'Rabba l'tamei, v'Rabba the osar b'hachona she'ena b'yadayim mamash. Rabba, who prohibits, even though this preparation is not with your actual hands, the Eibishter prepared it in the chicken on Shabbos, it's still, he goes by his reasoning that that is considered preparation, and that's not allowed on Yom Tov. The Omar Rabbi, for Rabbi, says, Rabbi says like this, my diksiv, Rabbi says, Rabbi l'taimei, the Omar Rabbi, the Rabbi, okay, this would be over here. So Rabbi follows his reasoning, the Omar Rabbi. So Rabbi that Ari, he goes l'taimei, the Omar Rabbi b'psochim, daf mem zayin amid beis over there, v'yolif mahocha the muktzah de oiraisa. He learns from here that muktzah is actually from the Torah, which means, like this machlokes we had before, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, whether muktzah is permitted or not by Yom Tov, not, but Rabbi says from the pasuk that you must prepare. If you didn't prepare, it's muktzah, and you cannot use it on Yom Tov. If you did not prepare it on a weekday, if you don't prepare something on a weekday, you can't use it on Shabbos and you can't use it on Yom Tov. You can't have Shabbos prepare for Yom Tov. You can't have Yom Tov prepare for Shabbos. You could have Shabbos prepared for a weekday, Lamarshal. If the egg was prepared on Shabbos, you can eat it on a Sunday, even though it's prepared on Shabbos. But a day like a Yom Tov cannot prepare by a Shabbos, and Shabbos cannot prepare for Yom Tov, Yom Tov not for Shabbos. You have to have a weekday. If the weekday does not prepare, then it becomes muktzah, you can't use it. This is what he says. My diksiv What is the meaning of the pasuk? V'hoyo b'yoyim hashishi. And it will be that this is talking about the man. He told them that they should do everything on Friday because Shabbos there's not going to be any manna and they're not going to have the manna. So he says, V'hoyo b'yoyim hashishi v'heichinu eis asher yeviu. On Friday, they should prepare that they bring home, prepare it for the next day. What is he talking about? To prepare everything on Friday. Friday is a weekday. Any weekday Friday, Stam Friday is a weekday. You need to prepare on Friday everything that you're going to use on Shabbos. Otherwise, you can't use it on Shabbos. You need to prepare. If you did not prepare it on Friday, then you can't use it on Shabbos. How does he know this? So Rashi explains, Vehechinu means vehezminu. Prepare it. Kigoy. How does preparing work? As for example, the person says, Mikan ani oichel lemocher. He says, from here, I'm going to eat the next day. You have to say, prepare in your mind, I will be eating from this the next day. Well, maybe it means to prepare so that because you can't cook on Shabbos, you got to prepare. Not that you have to say that I'm going to eat, that you have to know on Friday what you're going to eat on Shabbos. It just means they have to prepare because you can't cook on Shabbos, so you're going to have to prepare on Friday. But there's another pasuk for that. The mishum hachona biyadayim. If we're talking about that, what you prepare, that you have to prepare with your hands, the work that you need, that they should cook, bake and cook from the daytime for Shabbos, that says beferish, you don't have to prepare for that. That says in the pasuk clearly, Eis asher toifu eifu, what you're going to bake. The pasuk is telling you to bake things then. So what does it mean when it says veichinu eis asher yeviu, which means elazmona bepeb ka'amar. Per means with your mouth. You should say, I will be eating from this. That is what it means. Uksiv. But the pasuk says, when do you have to prepare this? By Yom HaShishi. By Yom HaShishi, a Friday. It's not it's a regular Friday, a weekday. Ustam Shishi Cholu. If you don't say, it's not a Yom Tov, it's not Yom Tov preparing, it's just a weekday. That's Stam Shishi Cholu. V'achashver rachamona l'sudas Shabbos. And the Torah made the Sudas Shabbos important to tell us that the person should prepare his Shabbos meal daytime before it comes dark, before Shabbos starts, and in the weekday. The Torah wants you say Sudas Shabbos is very important. The meal of Shabbos, anything you're going to eat on Shabbos is important. You must designate it during the weekday what you're going to eat on Shabbos. That is what the pasuk of Veichinu es asher yeviu means. And therefore, we learn from here that choil, a shishi, a weekday, mechin the Shabbos, that can prepare for Shabbos. The choil and a weekday also mechin the Yom Tov. Now, where did we see Yom Tov? Over here, we're saying for Shabbos. How does it Yom Tov? We'll see in a minute. Because Yom Tov is also, to a certain degree, a Shabbos. Just like they prepare for Shabbos, you have to prepare for Yom Tov as well. But ve'ein Yom Tov mechin l'Shabbos. But Yom Tov cannot prepare for Shabbos. So let's say Yom Tov is on Friday. Then you can't prepare for Shabbos. You can't prepare on Yom Tov for Shabbos, and ve'ein Shabbos mechin Yom Tov, and you can't have Shabbos prepare for Yom Tov. So Rashi, Be'ein Yom Tov Meichen the Shabbos, and Yom Tov cannot prepare for Shabbos. You need, just like Yom Tov, it says by Yom HaShvi Shishi to prepare for Shabbos. Yom Tov can also not prepare for Shabbos. You need a weekday to prepare for Shabbos. The Yom Tov Nami Koru Shabbos. And Yom Tov is also called Shabbos. Uboyi Sudose Hazmono, and the meal of Shabbos needs to prepare as well. Hazmonosa b'choil, and you prepare it in the weekday. I'm not sure why Rashi is writing this in Yom Tov Meichen L'Shabbos. This explains that choil Meichen L'Yom Tov because Yom Tov nami koresh Shabbos. Uboy sudos hazmona v'hazmonosa b'choil. You need a weekday preparing for Shabbos and also for Yom Tov, because Yom Tov is also called Shabbos. That's why you need a weekday to prepare for Yom Tov. That's why Chol. I'm not sure where Rashi quotes it in Yom Tov Meichen L'Shabbos. That's not what Rashi is explaining over here. Avol Sudas Chol Loi Chashiva V'L'Shayich B'Azmona. But a weekday, this and Yom Tov Meichen L'Shabbos explains, but Yom Tov can prepare for Choil, or Shabbos can prepare for Choil also. Sudas Choil Lechashiva V'Leshaycha Bazeh Azmona. Over there, it doesn't apply Azmona. Hilkach. Therefore, Be'echad B'Shabbos Ba'alma, if it would be just a regular Sunday, it's not that Yom Tov follows Shabbos. You have Shabbos, and then comes Yom Tov. Les lon lemeiser Beitzah sheneldo bei. You can't aser on a Sunday an egg that was laid on Sunday b'shum de'iske b'dei shamayim, because it's been prepared on Shabbos for the weekday. Why? Because Shabbos could prepare for a weekday. The sudas choil lo yatzer charachmona zimun mebed yom. Over there, the Torah does not require zimun b'ed yom because lo shayich b'muktzah can't have designated. So there's no, for Shabbos, we don't mind. For the weekday, Shabbos, it's not, the Isur is, you can't have a Shabbos day prepare. For a weekday, no preparation is necessary. It's not an important meal. You don't have to prepare, so there's no preparation. So what you're doing on Shabbos for the weekday is not called preparation because no preparation is necessary for a weekday. So therefore, Shabbos on a Sunday, it's okay. I'm only having a problem with the heading of this Rashi, Revein Yom Tov Meichen L'Shabbos. We take a look for a second at the actual heading in the Rashi. Over here. No, it's not, doesn't seem so much like Rashi is addressing exactly these words. I mean, I understand what Rashi is saying over here, but I'm just wondering the heading, the title in the Rashi. Ve'ein Yom Tov Meichin L'Shabbos, that is just saying that the choil, that Yom Tov cannot prepare for Shabbos, but the Rashi is this explaining why the weekday can prepare for Shabbos and the weekday has to prepare for Yom Tov, because Yom Tov is also called Shabbos, and the meal needs preparation, and you need b'choil. Choil needs to prepare for Yom Tov. And then Rashi goes on to explain, but a weekday meal does not require, is not important, and does not require preparing. So we don't care on a regular Sunday that the egg was prepared on Shabbos, and we don't answer it because it was prepared on Shabbos, because the weekday does not require Dimon from the daytime is not muksa. I don't understand so much this caption, this Rashi over here. It says it. Okay. But ve'ein Shabbos mechina liyom tov, but Shabbos can also not prepare for Yom Tov. And so maybe this Rashi would be also ve'ein Shabbos mechina liyom tov, that you can't have Shabbos prepare for Yom Tov. And that's exactly our case. What's the case of Beitzah Shnei Yom Tov? Is the case of Yom Tov that comes after Shabbos. Sunday is Yom Tov, and Yom Tov comes after Shabbos. And we have a problem that the egg was prepared on Shabbos, and Shabbos is not allowed to prepare for Yom Tov. Rashi brings down that we're not goyres ve'en Yom Tov meichin lechaveira izok Rashi loy garsinon. We don't have the version b'milsa derabba that you also can't have one Yom Tov prepare for the other Yom Tov, because there's no such a thing as two Yom Tovs, Dokra Kodorish, because we're learning from the Pasuk. Ushnei Yomim Ritzufim Batoira. We never find in the Torah, we have the second day as exile, but we don't have, there's no Torah 2 days that's consecutive. Le'ashkechon. Because the reason that we have is the Misvek Avdinulu. We do it because we're in doubt, but there is no 2 consecutive days in the Torah. So that's what we're not good at. Okay? So he says that here we're talking about a Shabbos that comes before a Yom Tov that comes after Shabbos.
Say that again.
He says that it's a Yom Tov that comes after Shabbos. That's why the egg was prepared on Shabbos.
Yeah.
You can't use it on Sunday, on Yom Tov. Amalei Abaye, but you could use it. You got what I said before? You could use it if it was a Sunday, a regular day. It wasn't a Yom Tov. You could use it because a Sunday doesn't require preparation. So we don't care that Shabbos prepares for it. We only don't want you to prepare on Shabbos for a day that needs preparation. Yom Tov needs preparation. You can't do it on Shabbos, but if it's a weekday, it's okay. Amalei Abaye. So Abaye says to him, El Me'ato. So in that case, Yom Tov Ba'almo Tishtari. But what about just a regular Yom Tov, which is not after Shabbos, Yom Tov Ba'almo, Sheine Achar Shabbos, which is not after Shabbos. Let it be allowed because it's not prepared. Why can't you use it on a regular Yom Tov? Over there it was prepared on a weekday, so why don't you use it on a Yom Tov? Now, I'm not understanding the question so much. I got to look inside. But we
Okay, the
said
question
before
goes,
our Mishnah is talking about the Yom Tov that comes after Shabbos, no? That's what the Gemara said. It
okay, so maybe there's another opinion that it was just a regular yontif.
says,
Yeah.
what are we talking about? The Gemara says, we're talking about the Shabbos Yom Tov that comes after Shabbos. So why is he asking him, let it be allowed by every... But apparently, the Gemara says that's the reason. But the Gemara says, Gezeira mishum Yom Tov achar Shabbos. We're not going to allow you any, since Yom Tov that comes after Shabbos, if you're going to start using an egg on the regular Shabbos, you're going to use it every Yom Tov. You say, Yom Tov, yeah, Yom Tov, we can eat late eggs. But you can't eat it every Shabbos. If it comes after Shabbos, you can't. So it's Gezeira mishum Yom Tov achar Shabbos. Since Yom Tov achar Shabbos, you're not allowed to use it, we say, no, don't use on Yom Tov eggs that were late because you might come to use it when Yom Tov comes on Sunday. Frag the Gemara, but what about Shabbos the Almo? She'einu achar Yom Tov. What about Shabbos, a regular Shabbos, which does not follow Yom Tov? The Gemara learns that's Asr too. Hishtari, that should be permitted. Likmoya, now, what are you going to do on Shabbos? Uh, so the Gemara assumes that it's Asr on Shabbos also. Just a regular Shabbos, you can't eat um, eggs now. How are you going to eat it on Shabbos? You don't have to cook it. You can eat, a raw egg. Tishtari, the Klash, Likmoya be'achayish nildaboy. We can't cook it, of course, because it's Shabbos. But why don't we allow to just eat up an egg, a raw egg that was laid in that day? So again, the Gemara seems like it took it for obvious. I got to look at what Tosfos says or what the Mefarshim say here. The Gemara took it for granted that it's Asr every Yontiv. The Gemara also took it that it's also every Shabbos. I'll look it up for next week in Mitzvah Shem. Okay, but the Gemara says, why can't we use it on a regular Shabbos? Mishum Shabbos achar Yontiv, because we worry if you're going to use it on a regular Shabbos, and then the Shabbos follows Yom Tov, which you can't. You say, well, on Shabbos we used eggs, but you can't always use on Shabbos eggs that were laid because after Yom Tov, we don't do it. Frag die Gemara, umigazrina. Do we then make such a decree? In other words, we're saying you can't do it. Umiachmer achmona bebeitzah li migzar hetera mishum isura. Do the Rabbanon then prohibit and say that you're not allowed to do something that is permissible because of the Isur when it comes to the egg? Technically, on a regular Shabbos, you can eat it. Technically, on a regular Yom Tov, you can eat it. But you're saying don't eat it on Shabbos because you might come a Shabbos that follows Yom Tov when you're not allowed, you make a mistake. Or don't eat it on Yom Tov because, on regular Yom Tov, because it might come after Shabbos. How do? We don't do that. But Tanya, because we learned the Bryce, it says like this. One who sechs a chicken, he finds eggs that are ready, complete eggs in the inside the chicken. Mutares la'achlam b'yom tov, then you're allowed to eat them on Yom Tov. On Yom Tov, you shechted it, you found the eggs, then you can eat them then. So, because in this case, they weren't laid on Yom Tov, but they're still in the mother's, they're still in the chicken.
It's the same issue whether they were laid or
Huh?
not. It's the same issue. It's the
But
same issue
they're not yet, they weren't laid yet. That means that they were going to be laid the next day. So that technically means that they were actually, they weren't prepared. Now, on the contrary, no, they weren't prepared. They were prepared on that day because they're complete eggs already. So they're fully prepared now. So you can eat them on Yom Tov. But if you think that we make a gezerah, ligzer mishum hanach de misyaldin b'yamein. Why don't we make a gezerah? Because those that are actually laid on that day, you're not allowed to eat. If you're going to allow to eat the eggs that you've checked in the chicken, why don't we? But then you'll come to eat the eggs that are laid on Yom Tov as well. So you see that we're not going to aser, eggs that are permitted are permitted. Again, why are these eggs permitted in Yom Tov? I think because they don't come from the day before. That's that day. They're Beitzah Gemuris, and so therefore they're not part of the Gezerah. or maybe they're going to be they're complete. They're going to be laid. They weren't done from yesterday. Amarlei, so he told him, Beitzim gemuris me'im milsalishkichi. This is not a common occurrence to find eggs in the mother's stomach. Something which is not common, the Rabbanon didn't decree. Okay, we'll leave it here and we'll mamshich mitzvah next week. Be'ezer Hashem.
Sure, thank you.
Good night, and kol
Thank
tov.
you very much, Rabbi. Thank you.
Thank you for joining.